All right, let's dive in. We're on the verge of a massive, massive shift in how companies report their climate impact. You know, those vague promises? They're out. Verifiable hard proof? That's in. And the tech making this all possible, well, that's what we're calling the AI carbon accountant.
So to really get our heads around this, let's start with a simple question. Imagine for a second, what if your company's carbon audit worked just like a modern bank audit? I mean, what would that actually look like? Well, it would look a lot like this. It means a system where every single emission is traceable right back to the transaction, whether that's an invoice or a sensor reading. It means it's cross-checked by totally independent sources, like satellites, and it's all built from the ground up for regulators. This is the big promise of the AI carbon accountant. It's about getting us way beyond guesswork and into what the pros call assurance-grade data. And look, make no mistake, this isn't some sci-fi, far-off future scenario. We're talking right now. The era of mandatory, auditable climate reporting, it's here. And that means assurance-grade data is fast becoming a non-negotiable cost of doing business. And when we say mandatory, we mean it. These aren't suggestions or nice-to-haves. These are legally binding deadlines. The EU's CSRD is already rolling out, and over in the US, California is jumping in with its own really strict requirements due in 2026 and 2027. Yeah, the clock is definitely ticking. But it's not just about handing in a report and calling it a day. Oh no. For the first time ever, we have a global standard, ISSA 5000, that is built specifically for auditing this stuff, sustainability data. So what does that mean for you? It means an independent auditor is going to be looking over your shoulder, checking your math against a super rigorous, consistent set of rules. Okay, so this creates a huge problem. And really, this is the core of what we're talking about today. The old way of doing things, relying on a tangled mess of spreadsheets and endless manual data entry, well, it's about to crash, like head on into the brick wall of this new reality. And this new reality, it brings with it 4, let's call them big headaches, for anyone still doing carbon accounting the old way. First, you've got data sprawl. I'm talking bills, sensor logs, fuel receipts, data from hundreds of suppliers, it's everywhere. Second, scope 3 uncertainty. Your supplier data is patchy at best, so you're just guessing based on how much you spend. Third, there's a temporal mismatch. You're trying to apply monthly energy credits to hourly energy use. It just doesn't line up. And finally, and this one is huge, you've got massive blind spots, especially when it comes to methane. And that methane blind spot, it is absolutely real. Just look at the numbers. The International Energy Agency found that the number of large methane leaks that satellites could see from space, it jumped by over 50% in just 1 year. That's not a small gap. That's a canyon between what companies are reporting from the ground and what we can now clearly see from space. So the big question is, how on earth do you solve this, right? How do you bridge that massive data gap and bring some order to all this chaos? Well, this is where our hero, the AI accountant, steps onto the stage. It's a system designed from the ground up to tackle these exact challenges. Let's do a quick side-by-side, the old way versus the new way. So instead of patchy, siloed data, the AI just ingests and normalizes everything from all your sources. Instead of those spend-based guesstimates for your supply chain, it automatically classifies suppliers for you. It even uses tech like OCR to literally read your invoices and receipts, which wipes out all those manual errors. And here's the kicker. By default, it builds a secure, hash-linked, unchangeable audit trail for every single data point. And remember that methane gap we talked about? This is exactly how the AI closes it. It takes your bottom-up inventory, so what your company measures on the ground with sensors and logs, and it fuses it with top-down data from satellites and aircraft. By reconciling these two completely different views, it creates one single, complete, and way more accurate picture of what's really going on. Okay, so this is all great tech, but why should your CFO care? How does this translate into actual business value? Because let's be honest, this isn't just some techie fix for the sustainability team. This is about turning a massive compliance headache into a real business advantage that the C-suite is actually going to care about. So here's the C-suite payoff, plain and simple. First, you are assurance ready. The system produces the exact evidence trails and controls that meet those new ISSA 5000 standards. Second, you get jurisdiction agility. You can use one single system to pump out reports formatted for different rules, whether it's for the EU or California. And third, and this is a big one, it dramatically lowers your costs. You're replacing armies of expensive consultants with continuous automated data pipelines. And we're talking about a direct hit to the bottom line here. For example, take oil and gas companies in the U.S. The EPA is rolling out a new methane charge that's going to hit $1,500 a ton by 2026. An AI system can automatically calculate your exposure to these kinds of fees, helping you tackle your emissions and your financial risk all at the same time. You know, this quote really just nails it. When the auditors show up, and they will, they're not going to want to see your pretty PowerPoint slides. They're going to demand repeatable methods, evidence trails, and controls. That's what assurance is all about. It's the show me, don't tell me economy. All right, so how do you actually get there from here? Let's break it down and walk through a practical playbook, a step-by-step guide to making net zero audits real for your company.
Okay, here it is, your 6-step action plan. We'll start with mapping your data. Then we'll stand up the AI, bring in that satellite data, upgrade some reporting, tie it all to the economics, and finally, get it all dressed up and ready for the auditors. It's a clear, structured path forward.
So let's just touch on a few of the key steps here. Step 1 is huge. It's about mapping your data backbone. You have to know what you've got and rank it by quality. The goal here is to get 80, maybe 90% of your emissions data from primary sources. Actual meters and invoices, not just estimates. Then, of course, step 2 is where you stand up the AI to start pulling all that data in and putting controls on it. Next up, step 3. This is where you add that critical top-down view we talked about. You literally subscribe to satellite feeds for your key locations to cross-check your own inventory against what's being seen from above. Then, step 4 is about upgrading your reporting, especially for things like electricity use, and step 5 is all about tying this data back to those real-world financial policies and penalties. And that brings us to the final step. Step 6, dressing your data for assurance. This is all about the final output. It means producing the exact artifacts your auditor can actually work with. Things like calculation notebooks that show their work, data lineage graphs, and change logs. It gives them something they can actually sample and verify, tracing a number all the way from its source to the final report. When you boil it all down, this is the big takeaway. The era of just telling a good story about climate progress, that's over. Net zero audits become real when hard, verifiable measurement beats a good narrative. Now, AI doesn't get rid of all the uncertainty, but it shrinks it dramatically. And just as important, it documents it, giving everyone the evidence we actually need to make real, defensible progress. So that leaves us with one final thought, one final question for you. The new rules are here, the technology is ready to go, and the auditors, well, they're waiting. The only question left is your business ready to actually prove its progress?